Hey everyone, welcome to the Wisconsin Whistle. I'm your host, Dan Vachalek, aka Dyhard. Uh, Bucks, they're coming down to the wire. They're winners of 5 straight. 3 games left on the schedule. They just won their last 4. Brewers are also doing hot. They just beat the Rockies last night, had a 3-1 series victory over the Cincinnati Reds. And that's really what's going on right now in Wisconsin sports. The NFL has been very quiet. College basketball just wrapped up on Monday. Congrats to the Florida Gators for winning the national championship with a stellar game. Outside of that, the Badgers have been quiet in football. Badgers are quiet in basketball. However, Xavier Amos has entered the transfer portal, and Jack Janicki will be back. They were also in the very early top 25. Marquette was not ranked in the very early top 25 on ESPN as soon as the national championship game concluded. So we'll see how Marquette stacks up as the offseason progresses, how Wisconsin, if they improve or, just have a lot of hope, because last year they had almost none. But Bucks has some great wins this past week. They beat the Hawks. No, they beat the Heat. That was a big game. They ended up beating the 76ers. Last night's comeback win over the Timberwolves was huge, and then they beat the Pelicans as well, who they play tomorrow night. So we got all that and more. Hey everyone, welcome to the Wisconsin Whistle. I'm your host, Dan Vachalek, aka Dyhard on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. For anyone who didn't catch the Bucks game last night, about 10 minutes left in the game, they were down 24 points. They went on a 30-3 run. It was actually 23-0 at one point on their run, but they went on a 30-3 run and ended up winning. In the game was kind of like, most of the game it was out of control. Bucks just couldn't really hit shots. Timberwolves couldn't miss a shot. They had 30 points in the paint in the first half. Just dominated the paint, scoring on everybody. And then, the third quarter came, and Minnesota just kind of took off a little bit. It kind of was looking really bad. And 40-13 was the fourth quarter final score between both teams just for that quarter. And the Bucks really kicked it into gear. Kevin Porter Jr., who's really stepped up, he almost had a triple-double against the Heat. I can't remember what he had. He had like 24 points. Yeah, he had 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists against the Heat in that victory in overtime. Last night, it was more of the same from him. It was 21 points, 5 assists. He had 5 steals, including 2 big ones in the fourth quarter towards the end of the game after the scuffle that he had with Rudy Gobert, which was a little interesting. Kevin Porter Jr. kind of stood up, kind of like boxed him out almost, and Rudy Gobert had hooked him, and they were kind of just hooked together, really. And then Gobert tried to, swing him, and Kevin Porter Jr. ended up knocking him on the ground. Maybe he tripped or whatever, but it looked like Kevin Porter Jr. knocked him on the ground. Then he got in his face, and they both got in each other's faces. They were both assessed fouls and technicals, and Gary Trent Jr. was assessed a technical foul on that as well. The Timberwolves did get a technical free throw for that. However, it seemed like even though the Bucks were on a run, and maybe the Timberwolves did that to try to fire up their own bench, Bucks being at home with Bobby Portis back, it really fired up their team. Kevin Porter Jr. had 2 dunks after that. He had a steal and then an alley-oop pass to Giannis, who also ended up with a triple-double. Well, not also, but he ended up with a triple-double, even though he was awful from the free throw line. Kevin Porter Jr. has really established himself, though, as that guy. Uh, just the step in, the guy who could close, the guy who we kind of want on the floor at all times. Now, I'm not sure. Ryan Rollins has been playing really well as of late. Last night, not really overly well. He only had 5 shots. He made 2 of them, included a 3, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. The rebound was an offensive rebound, and then he also had a defensive rebound. He did have a turnover. He had a foul. And, when you look at Ryan Rollins, you think, okay, he could be a starter. He could fill in. He's got a nice shot. He doesn't need to control the ball like Kevin Porter Jr. is more of a ball-dominant player. Ryan Rollins is not. But when you think about it, I could have Kevin Porter Jr. come off the bench. I have no problem with that at all. But he needs to be playing 30 minutes a game. Down the stretch, he needs to be in. He needs to be in at key moments. It's going to be very hard if Dame comes back, as there was a report that I'll get into in a little bit about he could come back for the playoffs, which start the 19th or the 20th, which is Easter. Actually, they start Easter weekend. So he could be back for the playoffs, which would kind of switch up how the entire offense is going to look. And I'll get into Dame a little more because I was having a discussion with some friends of mine that, when you watch Dame play, it appears one way as you watch him. And then if you look at the stat line, it's a different way. And, maybe the hopes are too high on him. Expectations, rather, are too high for him. I'm not sure, but it'll be very interesting to see if he does come back and he's able to play against the Pacers and then, possibly second and beyond rounds, how that will change the offense and the dynamic, especially with Kevin Porter Jr., Ryan Rollins, both needing minutes. AJ Green's going to be needing minutes. And then you have Dame in there as well, who, as a superstar, getting paid $40 million a year, you should be playing 35, 40 minutes a game, especially when it comes to playoffs. So if he's taking up that much time, can you play Kevin Porter Jr. with Dame and Giannis? Is that going to how is that going to affect the offense, especially with Kevin Porter and Dame both play the same position and both are more ball-heavy, ball-dominant players? Giannis also is a ball-dominant player. Having 3 ball-dominant players at once on the team is going to cause a lot of conflicts. But we'll get into some of that, and we'll see what it is. But Bobby Portis is back. He had a nice game last night, 18 points and 10 rebounds. He had a block, a steal, 2 steals, an assist, 3 offensive rebounds. He was 2 of 6 from 3. I think his first 3 came in on that 30-3 run in the fourth quarter. But it was nice to see Bobby Portis back. He took as many shots as Giannis, actually. Did not make as many, but he took as many shots as Giannis. And it was nice to see Bobby Portis back. Had that fire. It's nice to have him back on the floor, especially because Brook Lopez minutes, he did play 28 last night. However, it limits him a little bit more off the floor. It seemed like in the first half they were scoring at will over Lopez. Against the Heat, Bam Adebayo did whatever he wanted against Lopez. And that was coming off of the last game we played against the Heat where their center did whatever he wanted against Lopez. So, if Lopez can't guard 2 big guys on a team, who else, what is he going to do? So his pay, I'll get into that a little bit later as well, looking ahead to maybe next season as well. The expectations for the playoffs aren't very high, but we'll get into all that, especially, I do want to get into looking at the season wrap up a little bit, especially, excuse me, especially with 3 games left. But let's hear a quick message from our sponsors, and then we can get into the Dame news and some more Bucks coverage. and look ahead to their last 3 games, 2 against the Pistons to wrap up the year, and then tomorrow night against the Pelicans. You're listening to the Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Again, this is the Wisconsin Whistle. I'm your host, Dan Vachalek, a.k.a. Dyhard. We have a new sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplement. GetRawNutrition.com. Use promo code IESR for 10% off. Again, that's GetRawNutrition.com. Use promo code IESR for 10% off. And you can follow me on both accounts. The show account is at WISC Whistle IESR. On Twitter, again, that's at WISC Whistle IESR. Or you can follow my personal account at Dyhard, DYHARD. And also there's a link down below at Spricker.com//the-Wisconsin-Whistle-/6467408 /support. Go to that link. You can support the show. Everything's greatly appreciated. It just shows that you support me and what we're talking about. And back to the Bucks. Indie Sports Nation. What a comeback. Have a good show. And what a comeback that was. I was watching the game, and I ended up leaving at halftime to go run and grab some food for my son, actually. And at that time, I said, wow, it feels like Minnesota has 40-some points in the paint. Bucks are like 3 of 25 from 3. And at that point, they're actually 4 of 21 from 3 and allowed 30 points in the paint. Now, when you talk about comebacks, up is loading. Okay. The Timberwolves had 48 points in the paint total. So 18 points in the paint in the second half. Bucks actually were getting outscored in the paint like 30-12 or some ridiculous number. Giannis really didn't have any numbers at all. I don't think he passed double-digit points until midway through the third or a little after halftime. But the Bucks finished with 44 points in the paint as well. They ended up forcing more turnovers by the Timberwolves than the Bucks had, which was the complete opposite in the first half. The Bucks, while I said 4 of 21 at halftime from 3, they finished 12 of 36 for 33%. 4 of 21 is 19%. So, they definitely shot a whole lot better in the second half, went 8 for 15. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing when you look at a comeback like that. I mean, the Bucks went on to go on a 23-0 run is just mind-boggling in today's NBA, especially when you're playing against a team that just seemed like they couldn't miss shots. They were doing whatever they wanted in the paint. It was over Lopez. It was over Portis. It was even over Giannis. I mean, everything was just falling in the first half, and they really controlled the paint. And that brings me up to another point of Lopez in the paint now. Last night, yes, it was like, wow, can Lopez stop anybody? But when you really think about it, Minnesota was scoring on everybody. It didn't really matter who was down there. And I wouldn't put the blame on Lopez because it was on Bobby. It was on Giannis. It was on whoever wanted to be down low, Prince. I mean, Kuzma. It was on every single person that was down low in the first half. Minnesota was they were just falling in for them. But when you do talk about down low, they have Rudy Gobert and, Naz Reid, I guess, down low. But Rudy Gobert had 7 rebounds. Brooke had 2. Had 2 rebounds. and that's rather disappointing to see from a 7'10" big man. I mean, a 7'1", 7'2" big man, where you only have, 2 rebounds, especially when you come off a game against the Pelicans. Granted, it's against, a G League squad. I mean, I didn't know half the players. I did know some, but, and you have 12 rebounds, 20 points and 12 rebounds, and, you played pretty well. But that's also coming off a game against the Miami Heat in overtime where you had 5 rebounds. Bam Adebayo, I mean, did whatever he wanted over you. And then the game before that against Miami, Khalil Ware, you let him do whatever, and that brings me to, where you look at the offseason, what should the Bucks do down low? And it kind of, poses the question, are you okay with Lopez playing off the bench at $21 million a year? Who's going to take Lopez at $21 million a year? What can the Bucks do with Lopez? And I'm not very confident that you can move forward with Lopez as a starter, especially when it comes, playoff time, or you play against, very good big men, and, Lopez can't keep up with them, can't stop them. He can't really he can't rebound. It poses a problem. Yes, he does have the most blocks, or one of the top 5 blocks or something on big men, but you have to really think about what are you going to do down low in the future. I don't feel comfortable putting Lopez down there for 30-some minutes a game in the postseason and think that the Bucks are going to win with that. I like Brook on offense when he's not taking threes. I mean, against the 76ers, he had 3 3-point attempts. Against the Heat, he had 4. Against the Pelicans, he had 6, but, he had 12 rebounds, so I'll ignore the 6. And then last night he had 5, which nobody was really making threes, so whatever, you can, waive that. But again, when you see him not stand at the 3-point line, he does a whole lot better, and he's able to have a way higher field goal percentage, and he makes a lot of shots down low. Defense, he's just too slow, can't keep up with guys, and outside of getting some blocks, he didn't have any last night, but outside of getting blocks, if he's not, getting a block, he's usually getting passed or scored on or causing a foul or just causing chaos, which usually results in points for the other team anyway. But you have to really assess what you're going to do with Brook Lopez. I can't put Bobby down there all game. Now, Sims is supposed to be back coming up here. Now, you bring Sims back, Doc, he's a question mark on what type of lineup he's going to run. You're going to run into the problem of having to, you only have 5 players on the floor at once. Giannis is going to play a long time. Kuzma, 25 to 30 minutes. That's cool. Brook Lopez, you're going to have to really limit his minutes and put Sims out there. Bobby's got to get some time, and I think, you could play Bobby and Sims, but is Giannis going to be on the floor while you're doing that? Or is Giannis going to have to rotate between playing with Bobby and playing with Sims along with playing with Lopez? It just becomes a minutes issue there, along with trying to get Trent and Porter minutes. And, AJ Green, since he went down with the injury, last night he was 3 of 6 from 3, had a couple big threes, monster threes late in that comeback. So he does warrant some playing time, especially with how he's been playing as of recent. Against the Pelicans, AJ Green was 2 of 4 from 3. 2 of 2 from 3, 3 of 5 from the floor with 10 points against the Heat. Against the Senators, he was 4 of 5 from 3 with 12 points. I mean, that's not, that's good right there. However, AJ Green, besides, defense, last night he did have 4 rebounds, but you don't really get a whole lot from him outside of, threes or attempting threes. So you could cut his minutes back. Unless you want to look at the defensive aspect of it, but there's been games where the whole defense just looks like garbage anyway. So, playing AJ Green, he's not making a big difference. I think he's 6'2" or 6'3". He's not going to go down in the paint and try to, stop people, stop big guys. He's more so up there. He could guard shooters. But he's not going to get rebounds. He's not, okay, that's a lot. I think that's a lot for him, but he's not going to get huge amounts of rebounds or assists or steals or blocks. Luckily, he doesn't really turn the ball over too much. Neither does Ryan Rollins. But Kevin Porter Jr., while he does turn the ball over, like we saw last night, he could ignite a comeback just like Giannis can. Kevin Porter Jr., when it comes down to crunch time, he could dribble the basketball and split two defenders and somehow get to the hoop and get downhill and score a layup and put the game away like he did against the Heat in overtime. You have to play Kevin Porter Jr. because when he was a starter, he was 20-some points a game, and he's still very young. There was an article that came out where they were talking about Kevin Porter Jr. They want to get him down low more, finish downhill, keep going downhill, finish through contact, this stuff. And if he does that, his game's going to a different level. Now, when you, again, look at next year with Lopez up in the air, if you do keep Lopez and Sims and stuff, the Bucks don't really have money or availability to go get big names or try to get players that, aren't going to be anything except role players or bench players that could come off and provide some minutes. They could get, a cheap player, a couple mil or whatever the case is, but you're not going to get somebody, 20-some million or whatever. Do you cut Lopez just to free up room? I mean, do you try to trade him? I don't know what his value is. With Kevin Porter Jr., you have Ryan Rollins. You also have Dame. You cannot play Dame, Kevin, and Giannis all together. You just can't. You can, but it's going to just cause a lot of chaos. And as we saw from the Suns, as we saw from other teams, when you have three dominant ball handlers on an offense at once, they all need to play with the ball in their hand. That's how they play. Playing off ball is odd and strange for them. Giannis is going to be that guy who, no matter who he plays with, Giannis is going to command the ball and he's going to take it. We see that with Dame as well, where Giannis and Dame are on the floor and don't seem to play as well compared to when they're on the floor by themselves. The other thing, too, is Giannis will still demand the ball and have Dame play, second fiddle to him. And that's because Giannis is the face of the Bucks. Giannis is the guy. He makes triple-double as a big guy. He's posted multiple triple-doubles in the past couple games. He had one against the Heat, 36, 15, and 10. He had one against the 76ers. First time in history a player has posted a 35, 20, 15 line, but he had 35, 20, and 17, 20 assists and 17 rebounds. He missed the Pelicans game, which is perfectly fine because we didn't need him, but we won by 4. Should have been more, but so Giannis's last 3 games he played, he scored a triple-double. And you look at that, he deserves the ball. He deserves to lead the team, and that's what he is. Now, the conversation comes up with Dame next year. What do you do? He's making $40 million a year. This year he did, unfortunately, have to miss time now because he has blood clots. And that was the news that I kind of, teased you with at the start of the show, there was an article on ESPN by Tim Botemps, but I saw this, it also came from Shams, that, Lillard hopefully will return to basketball activities about 7 to 10 days. And that was last Thursday. This article came out on April 3rd. at night. And Doc Rivers had said, we have much more hope today than we did 3 days ago. I could tell you that. So we're going to take everything that we could do to see if there's a way we could get him back. It also says Rivers had said the Bucks are fully prepared for the likelihood that Lillard will not return. He said there's no balance when asked how the team would straddle the chances of him coming back or not. You work on what we don't have because there's no guarantee we are going to have him. We get him back, we know how to play, but we don't know how to play in the long term without him. And so it's really the 9 Giannis minutes that we have to figure out. Before there was either a non-Giannis, but you had Dame, and now you don't have that. So that's what we're working on every day, and I haven't been great at it yet. So we got work to do. He also said, based on the turnover issues that we have seen, also offensive rebounds been giving up. That's another big problem. Offensive rebounds. The Bucks keep giving up second chance points, and they turn the ball over a lot. Rivers said, I can't put my finger on it, honestly, on what's causing the Bucks turnover issues. He said, quote, I can't put my finger on it, honestly. We turn it over in a lot of ways, but I do know this. We can't win games. The other night, they took 18 more shots. The night before, they took 19 more shots. You know how well you have to shoot the ball to win a game like that. And that was before they beat the Sixers that night. They beat them 126-113, which ended up putting them into a tie with the Pistons, because I believe that was the night the Pistons lost to Ja Morantless. No, that wasn't the night the Pistons lost to Ja Morantless. I don't think. The Grizzlies. But basically, Rivers has said that, they definitely think that Dame will be able to come back. They're hopeful. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But that brings into the question how the Bucks, if he does come back, how are the Bucks going to formulate a roster? How are they going to formulate their lineup? Especially with his comments, Doc Rivers' comments right there, where he said, without the 9 Giannis minutes, that means that there's 9 minutes of the game where Giannis is on the bench. And I'll say 9 to 11. If he says, okay, we're going to have Dame in the lineup the entire time that Giannis is out, and then they're going to also play together, when does Kevin Porter Jr. get his minutes? How does that affect Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter? How does that affect down low? How does that affect the tempo of the game? Kuzma had, before Dame missed time, really, the Bucks didn't have a lot of tempo. They didn't really push the ball in transition a lot. Kuzma and Porter have been pushing the ball a lot more in transition. Is Dame going to be okay playing with that? His chemistry is definitely going to be off with the new guys, Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. It's just going to be a different atmosphere. It's going to be very challenging for Doc Rivers to get a lineup set up correctly. However, you want to look at next season then. There's not much hope that the Bucks are going to advance past the second round. Because right now what we're looking at is we're looking at the Cavs will get the 1 seed, Celtics and Knicks, that's 1 through 3. And then 4 is going to be the Pacers. More than likely, they have 2 games against the Cavs and then 1 against the Magic. If the Pacers lose the next 3, the Bucks beat Detroit both times, beat New Orleans tomorrow. The Bucks will take over the 4th seed, have home court advantage for round 1. And then after that, you just have to hope a lower seed upsets Cleveland, Boston, and the Knicks. And hopefully, one of those teams, we just have to hope we don't face Cleveland, Boston, and New York, because the Bucks have not beaten them at all this year, can't seem to figure out their number, and Cleveland is very, very, very good this year. Boston shoots nothing but threes. I think they just broke the record for team threes in a season. The Knicks, as we saw, I saw firsthand sitting in the stands, along with earlier in the season, they just seem to not be able to beat the Knicks as well. Jalen Brunson should be back for the playoffs, which makes them even more dangerous to the Bucks. So The expectation is that we're going to beat the Pacers. We have the 3-1 series lead in the regular season over them, which is the tiebreaker, which is why I said we would get the 4th seed because we'd finish with the same record. But home court is somewhat advantageous. But if you're 3-1 against a team, you know, I think the Bucks could definitely win. I don't think it should go 7. I'm really predicting a 6-game series against the Pacers. I think the Pacers are going to probably get the first game at home and then probably steal the last game before they get kicked out the playoffs and then, you know, end up losing game 6. That's my prediction. Bucks just, you know, they've outplayed them this year, so I think that'll continue, especially in a 7-game series. So I predict 6. I know some people I'll talk to multiple people that say 5. I have, you know, 5. Only reason I say 6 is because I think the Pacers will steal one in there. But you know, after that, you're not going to beat Cleveland, Boston, or New York unless, you know, they just shit the bed on four straight games. Or you just steal, you know, you steal 1 or 2 games and then they shit the bed on the other ones. I just don't see that happening. But when you look at that, that means that next year the Bucks are going to have to make some changes. Damian Lillard's making $40 million a year. Now, when people say, well, Dame doesn't look like how he used to when he was in Portland, unfortunately, Dame was scoring 32.5 points a game his last season in Portland. He did play 58. The season before that, he played 29 games. You know, then he's played 60s, 67, 66, and then he was 80, 70s. You know, in the 70s in his first 3 seasons, he played all 82. This year, he'll probably finish at that 58-game mark. He's not going to play the rest of the regular season. So he'll end the season with 24.9 points per game, 7.1 assists per game, and 4.7 rebounds per game, 1.2 steals, 2.8 turnovers, and 1.7 fouls per game. The reason I mentioned all those stats is because they're completely in line with his career numbers. His career numbers are 25, so he's 0.2 under his career points per game at 25.1. Turnovers is exact. He has 0.2 less fouls, 0.2 more steals, 0.1 less blocks. Not that really matters. 0.3 for a career, 0.2. He has 0.4 more assists per game, 0.4 more rebounds per game than his career. And his free throw percentage is at 92. Career is 89. He's at 37% 3. His career is 37%. And he's at 44.8% from the field. His career, 43.9. So when you look at all those stats, and when you do the eye test, let's do the eye test. You know, you're saying, hey, something's wrong with Dame. He doesn't have that Dame time atmosphere towards the end of the game. He keeps missing the threes when he's taking the last-minute shots. When he's in the game, it just looks off when he's playing. You know, this isn't the Dame that we were expecting it. In reality, when you look at the statistics, it is the Dame that we should have been expecting. It's the Dame that he's posting pretty much. This is his career. This is what he's done throughout his career, and this is his averages. Yes, he's had some, seasons where he scored 30 points a game and 32, but outside of that, this is really what you've been getting from Dame his whole career. All the way across the board, he's been a very consistent player when you look at the statistics each year. Started off his career 19, 20, and 21 a game. After that, from 2015 on, it's been 25 plus a game. And you got 2 turnovers a game, about 2 fouls, a little under 2 fouls a game. Get about a steal a game, 4 to 5 rebounds, about 4 rebounds a game, 4 to 5 rebounds, 6 to 7 steals. 6 to 7 assists a game. lately he's been actually getting more and more assists as his career's been progressing and he's getting older. But all the numbers are pretty much right in line with his career average. Shooting efficiency, he's at 0.55. Career is 52%. Scoring efficiency is at 1.459 this year. His career is 1.364. Assist to turnovers at 2 to 5, usually 2.4. And, he had 2 triple-doubles this year, 14 double-doubles this year. His numbers are very, very consistent compared to his career numbers. And this is what we're going to expect from Dame. Now, you have to assess, especially this offseason and the beginning of it, because you don't want this, you don't want free agency to really get too deep in, because you want to be able to grab some players out of there. You have to assess, do you want Dame next year? As a Bucks fan and as a basketball fan, I would love to have Dame play with Giannis and them go for a championship and win, and I would love that. However, if you want to keep Kevin Porter Jr. around and Giannis and Dame, that's not going to work. The offense is going to have problems because you're going to have rebounding problems. You're going to have just problems overall with 3 players who want the ball. It's not going to work. You just can't. Kevin Porter Jr. is going to fill in for Dame, but then you're going to keep Ryan Rollins around, who also should be filling in for Dame. You're just going to be overloaded at one position, especially you have AJ Green. Pat's probably going to join back. Gary Trent. You have a lot of small guys that's point/shooting guards. That's not really going to work as an organization to try to get minutes and divvy this out. And when you have a player that averages 36.1 minutes per game this year and 36.2 in the career, even the minutes are on top of his career numbers. 36 minutes a game, you got 12 minutes where, he's not playing. So 12 minutes of no Dame means you can only put 12 minutes of Ryan Rollins or Kevin Porter Jr. or split that up. Or you could add more minutes, but they're going to be on the floor together. Kevin Porter and Dame on the floor together, they're both ball-dominant point guards. Dame is 6'2", but Kevin Porter's 6'4", so, okay, you can shift him to shooting guard, but, again, he's ball-dominant. Then if you put Giannis on the floor with them, ball-dominant. You got 3 guys that are going to always want the ball and start off the offense with the ball. They're going to push it up the floor with the ball. You can't have 3 guys like that. 2 can work. 2 can definitely work. We saw Kevin Porter and Giannis in the game a lot together, and they could free off each other. They know how to play with each other. Dame and Giannis, have been able to play off each other. We've seen it. The pick and roll, I think, isn't the best or what, it should have been. I like the pick and roll with Lopez a little more. But Kevin Porter with Dame and Giannis, that's 3 guys now, and there's only 2 other guys. It's just a little crowded in the ball dominance position. So my personal opinion, and I think you could get a lot for Dame, and I think teams will be willing to pay this, is I think that you should actually actively try to trade Damian Lillard this offseason. Maybe try to get rid of Lopez as well and get a younger big guy down low. Now, you could keep Lopez, but $21 million a year or $24 million a year to be a backup and play 15 minutes a game is a little asinine to me. I'm not paying $20 to $24 million for a guy to play 15 minutes when you could pay Sims like $4. I don't even know what Sims is making. But I'm going to look that up. But, 3 year, 5,658,000. This year's cap hit was $2 million. His cash is $2,143,841. So, next year, club option partial guaranteed, exercise 629, 10 days, fully guaranteed. So he's actually a free agent, it looks like, next year. Unrestricted, unrestricted free agent. So do you keep Sims at $2 million? He'll give you the 15 minutes a game. He's not going to give you any offense except maybe, a dunk here and there, but his defense is definitely there. His rebounding is definitely there. You want to play him 15 minutes a game for 2% of the cap, go ahead. I have no problems with that. Man, give him. Honestly, right now, this cap hit this year is $2,092,344. It's a cap percentage of 1.49. You give him 2%, just 2%. It's half a percent raise, 2%. Give him that. The cap's going to go up next year, so his money's going to go up even more off the 2%. Give him that. You keep him. You got somebody 15, 20 minutes a game that can play defense. Yeah, you take out the offense, but that's perfectly fine. And what do you need Lopez here making, 20-some million a year? But at the same time, who's going to take him? Who's taking Lopez? $23 million a year this year. Over 16% on the cap. How do you do that? How do you just can't. It's hard. It's hard, and Bobby's going to take his money next year, or he might opt out. Pat's going to take his $9 million next year. Kevin Porter, he's making $2.5 million. Give him $3 million. But Dame's making $48 million, making the same exact money as Giannis. Why not try to trade him? Granted, he really wanted to play with Giannis, but I think the Bucks could actually benefit more overall as a team getting rid of Dame than they can keeping him and trying to figure out Kevin Porter, Dame, and Giannis next year. And they could actually really benefit, build around Giannis. They could get a younger down low guy. You could build with Kuzma, Portis, have Giannis and Kuzma be the guys. Porter coming, Porter starting. You got AJ Green that come off the bench. Throw Sims down there for a little while as well. And go get a young center, young down low guy who, won't cost that much. Cost $10 million a year, $12 million a year. And you should be good there, just getting a rebounder and a defender. You could save a lot. You could really be very flexible if you get rid of $71 million worth of, if you round up $72 million worth of money, you could definitely be very flexible with $72 million opening up. And, that's what it is. That's what it is to me. I that's my personal opinion. If you guys disagree, let me know. But I really think that maybe looking to move Giannis. Move Dame. You keep Giannis. Don't move him. But try to look to move Dame is probably going to be the best decision for the Bucks moving forward. Now, if the Bucks pull it off, pull magic out of a hat, pull a rabbit out of there, pull a ring out of the thing, if they go get an NBA championship this year and are able to do it, I don't think they will, but they won the cup, so I'm not putting it past them. But it's going to be hard for me to believe that they're going to beat the Cavs, Celtics, or the Knicks. let alone if you play the West. I don't think they're beating OKC. OKC, their chemistry is unbelievable. Their roster is unbelievable. And they could get a lottery pick again this year just because of the picks that they do have. They have so many picks. They could even get better with young guys. It's insane. But OKC is that's my pick to win it all this year. So I definitely don't think the Bucks are going to beat them. I really don't think anybody can beat them. I think Cleveland can come close, but that's about it. We did see the Lakers beat them. They figured out a way to play Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They figured out a way to limit him from the free throw line. But, that's what I think the Bucks need to do start next year is after this season. Lopez you need to find a new home. Dame, I definitely would experiment with offering him out there and seeing what you can get back for him. I won't even be, get a player, find a down low guy, find a bench guy, a quality bench guy, and get some picks for him because you don't really have any draft picks either. So if you can't build in free agency, you're not going to be able to build off the draft either. So where are you building from? And if the Bucks team have holes in it this year, well, if you can't really build in free agency or the draft, are your holes just ripping even farther? And now, you just keep falling and falling. And now, Giannis is 30, going to be 31. You only have, I'd probably say 4 or 5 more years of Giannis, prime time before age is going to be catching up to him, especially with how he plays. You don't want to waste those 4 or 5 years here, especially when you just won a championship at 21. Your team is very good. You have 2 superstars right now, but it's just not working. Switch it up. You have potential. You're a top 5 seed in the East. You just won the NBA Cup this year. You have potential. But I really think that Dame, should be shopped around. I think Lopez needs to be shopped around. They need to regroup at down low. They need to regroup on offense and figure out, not offense, but as a team, and figure out better defensive players, better rebounding. Turnovers are a problem. Rebounding is definitely a problem. Defense, like I said, you're shooting 70-some%, 60%, 50%, but you're losing because you're letting the other team shoot 18, 20 shots more per game. Now, these last 4 games have been super fun. They beat the 76ers. Giannis had an insane game. Gary Trent was doing his thing. AJ Green, 4 or 5 from 3. Kevin Porter, 4 or 5. Everyone was doing their stuff, playing really well. You had the whole bench in at one point. I mean, they didn't look that good, but you had the whole bench in there. Obviously, Philadelphia's without anybody, too. Then you go to Miami. There's a lot of causes for concern while you're playing Miami. Offensive rebounding, 12-3 by Miami. Turnovers. Luckily, it was 10-9 in turnovers, but again, just the overall play wasn't the best from the Bucks for most of the game. Second quarter was. Overtime definitely was. Fourth quarter was at the end there. And Kevin Porter Jr. almost had a triple-double, went completely nuts. In 40 minutes of gameplay, he had AJ Green that played 34 minutes and actually played pretty well. 3 of 5 from the field, made both his threes. That was a fantastic game. Giannis, 36, 15, and 10. He had a great game. These have been fun games. Then you beat the Pelicans. Granted, you didn't have Giannis. They didn't have anybody either, though. Everybody's hurt on their team, too. They had Bruce Brown starting, Keon Brooks, Yefs Missy, Elfrid Payton, and Antonio Reeves that started. And then you didn't have Giannis, but Kevin Porter started, 20 points, 8 of 18. Gary Trent, 29 points, was on fire, 10 of 17. Ryan Rollins was 5 of 15, but he had 10 assists, 4 steals, no turnovers, no fouls. Kevin Porter, no turnovers, no fouls. Brook Lopez even, 20 points, 12 rebounds, no fouls. Taurean Prince had 5 fouls and just kind of has been there. Get rid of him too. He seems a little slow on defense. But then last night, you come back from down 24 to win. Didn't need overtime for it either. With 10 minutes to go in the fourth, you come back from 24 down, a game that everyone basically wiped you off. Said, oh, well, 99% chance Minnesota had to win on ESPN at one point. 99%. Actually, I think it was 99.9% that they had to win. Let me see. 99.9% chance with 10 minutes and 9 seconds left. Minnesota's 95, Milwaukee 71. And Milwaukee came back and won. They came back and won the game. And now we get the Pelicans again at home, and then 2 games against the Pistons. And one of these games against the Pistons, I would recommend sitting Giannis. I would recommend the second game, definitely the second half of the second game, but probably the second game overall, sit Giannis because I don't know if I would really recommend keeping Giannis in there because I don't know if the Pistons are going to try to do him dirty. I would hope not, but you just can't. You can't rely on it like that. And plus, you don't want Giannis to injure his shoulder more before the playoffs. Get some rest. You will have a week of rest, but, why force it? Why force it, especially if the game doesn't matter at all? But that's it for the Bucks talk. You're listening to the Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, IE Sports Radio family and other sports families. My name is Alden Kay, and I want to welcome you to the AZ Sports Zone on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you're a fan of the Valley and the Grand Canyon State like me, then I've got the show for you. Tune in every week, where I will update you and give you the latest news for the Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Suns, Arizona Diamondbacks, ASU Sun Devils, U of A Wildcats, GCU Antelope, and of course, the NAU Lumberjacks. Again, if you're a Valley sports fan and like all that is desert sports like me, tune in every week here on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll see you then.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Wisconsin Whistle. I'm your host, Dan Dyhard Vachalek. That's a nice comment from Lovable Shark whatever, big nice spam comment. So before I wrap up the show, I do want to talk a little Brewers. The Brewers won last night 7-1. They had a great series against Cincinnati. They won 1-0 to start it off, then won 3-2, lost 11-7, which is perfectly fine because they won 8-2 on Sunday. We're off Monday, and then start of the series in Colorado. Last night won 7-1. They had the seventh inning where Bryce Turang, Christian Yelich, and William Contreras all hit home runs. Jackson Chourio had a double and a triple last night. And it just so happens Chourio has a batting average of 306, on base percentage of 300, has 3 home runs, which leads the Brewers. He has 11 RBIs, leads the Brewers, 15 hits, tied for the lead with Sal Frelick, has 5 doubles. Isaac Collins. Okay, they have 2 different guys with the same name, but that's just Isaac Collins. He has 3. He also has a triple. Only Sal Frelick has a triple on the Brewers. But 31 total bases, also leads the Brewers. He has a stolen base, but he has those 15 strikeouts, which also lead the Brewers, but he leads them in WAR as well. Why I said all those stats is because Jackson Chourio started off the season with, I believe, 5 strikeouts in Game 1. And everyone kept saying, what I saw on Twitter, and I know I mentioned it last week, on what a nice start by Jackson Chourio. However, I wasn't concerned. And this just shows why you should not be concerned with Game 1 of 162. Because a week later, Jackson Chourio's batting average is 306. He's leading the team in home runs, RBIs, hits, total bases. You know, he's doing very well. WAR. So I'm not very concerned. What I am concerned about with the Brewers is their pitching. Nestor Cortez has been placed on the IL with a flexor strain. Same issue he had last year. We still don't have Quintana as he's ramping up still. Aaron Savale is going through injury problems. Pretty much all the starters right now, including Woodruff not being ready yet, are going through injury problems. So that leaves Freddie Peralta, Chad Patrick, Elvin Rodriguez. That's it for starters on the Brewers right now. So what do you do? I mean, what can you do if you just keep having injuries left and right to your pitching staff? You have Tobias Myers. He just had a rehab start in AAA. When was this? Today, actually. No, yesterday. Sorry. So Tuesday, Tobias Myers had a start in AAA. He had 2 walks and 2 hits over 3 1/3 scoreless innings, so that's good. Cortez received a platelet-rich plasma injection in his left elbow on Tuesday. Connor Thomas is also Connor Thomas looks like he's on the 15-day DL right now. Brandon Woodruff threw a simulated game on Monday, and he's reporting to AAA Nashville to begin a rehab assignment, and that was on Sunday. So, you still have Aaron Ashby that's on the injured list. He's supposed to be throwing a bullpen session Friday, so we will see about that. DL Hall is supposed to throw a bullpen session the 15th. Aaron Savale is scheduled to throw a bullpen session. Was scheduled to throw one on the 5th. I'm not sure the status on how that went, but he was scheduled to throw one last Saturday. So, I mean, you talk about injury woes and problems. I mean, you have a lot of them to start the season. The Brewers did make 2 roster changes, however. So they ended up bringing Grant Wolfram up. And as soon as they brought him up, they ended up trading him. They traded him to the Orioles, and they got Dom Rodriguez back. Then they traded Yofiri Rodriguez, an outfielder, for right-hander pitcher Quinn Prester from the Boston Red Sox. Now, all these guys I really don't have much knowledge about, but that's what they did. And I don't know if Quinn Prester, they did activate him. He's on the Major League roster. I haven't seen him pitch yet. I don't think he has. Let me just double check to make sure. But I do not think he's pitched yet. No. Is he a starter? I don't know. I actually don't. However, let me see schedule. I don't think he is. I think he's a reliever. But right now, outside of Alexander, Rodriguez, and Peralta, they don't really have starters. So Thursday, the series wrap up, they don't have a starter. Second game against Arizona, no starter. 2 games against Detroit, no starter right now. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what the Brewers do moving forward. However, they're still winning games right now. They luckily caught the injury bug early in the season, and they can rebound later in the season. Hopefully when everybody's healthy and rebounded. So that will be very nice to see as well. But the Brewers are 6-5, second in the NL Central. They had a great win last night. They should have another, 2 good game victories over the Rockies in the next 2 nights, tonight and tomorrow night. The Rockies, I don't believe, are very good at all. They're not. They're 2-8. Last year, I believe they were in last place in the NL West as well. Not expected to do anything good. So if the Rockies aren't expected to do much, these are the games that you need to win as well. You need to beat the teams not only in your division, but you need to beat the teams that you should beat. Because looking back at the end of the season, if you're, 2-4, 1-5 against bad teams, that really matters when it comes to 1 or 2 games difference in the standings. Like right now, we're 1 game back from the Cubs in the NL Central. If you're talking that with 10 games left, and you were 1-5 against Colorado, who's going 60 and 100 on the year, that matters. That's a big thing there. So what we will see tonight, though, is Tyler Alexander on the mound, and he's going to face Antonio Senzatella. And I really like what I saw from Tyler Alexander in his first start. He looked very impressive against the Reds. He had 6 strikeouts. He only had 3 walks, but he had no hits and 5 2/3 scoreless innings as well. So that was a very, very, very impressive start by him against the Reds, and he's going to get the start again. He didn't really pitch the best against the Yankees to start off the year. First game, though, in opening day, he did have a hit. He had a K in 1 inning. Next, 2 days later on Sunday, or 3 days later, rather, 2 games later, on Sunday in the 12-3 loss, he did give up 2 earned runs on 1 hit, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 2 1/3 innings. But starting, he looks very good. I expect him to continue that tonight. I expect the Brewers to win tonight. Expect them to win tomorrow. But that's going to be something to watch with injuries and trying to get a pitching staff together, because it's very hard to establish a pitching staff and a schedule when you have no idea what's going on. You're using up the bullpen early in the season, which isn't good. You want to make sure that you keep those guys healthy and fresh for most of the season until you get to the end, because, you use them up early. They pitch almost every day. Now when you get to midseason or, towards the end of the season, they're not fully fresh. They're not fully healthy, and it's a very long season. But that's something to keep in mind. Brewers do have a lot to look forward to, and they've had some good victories. Exactly what I was saying now against the Reds. You take 3 or 4, you win that series against a divisional opponent. You start off the season on the right foot. You're going to do very well. Bucks play tomorrow night. Giannis is scheduled to play. Pat is questionable. Obviously, Sims and Lillard are both listed as out. They won't play until possibly the playoffs. Sims, I know, should be playoffs. That's his timeline. Dame, we're hopeful he plays in the playoffs, but, you know, blood clots are serious. We'd rather him get healthy, but 3 games left, Pelicans and 2 Pistons. So fear the deer. Hopefully we get this 4th seed. And the Brewers, they play the what time does that game start? I think it's like an 8 p.m. start Central Time, 7:40 p.m. at Colorado. Tyler Alexander against Senzatella. So make sure to tune in. Then they wrap up the series tomorrow at 2 o'clock against Colorado. Then this weekend they'll be in Arizona following a home series against Detroit. They will complete the series next week by the time I do the show. So we'll have the rest of the Colorado series, Arizona, and the full Detroit series to talk about, as well as really prepare for the NBA playoffs and the Bucks. Hopefully we have home court advantage, and it's all positive talking. So you're listening to the Wisconsin Whistle on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. My name is Dan Vachalek, a.k.a. Dyhard.